All right, let's get right into it. Normally, I would just record this video on my own, and post it straight to YouTube, but this time, you know, I wanted to leave the VOD up on Twitch. Hey, how what up was happening? It's Kami the Wolf Boy, aka Pretty Blicky, aka Slick Blick, aka your favorite baby father. I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of a few topics I've covered in YouTube videos. I'm going to go over those topics again so that the VOD will be available on Twitch. Then I'm going to get right into what it was, the title of the stream is, right? So first off, um, I want to say AI is far from the only problem. Lovey-dovey, the baby fa. Yes, it is me. It is I. I have returned. I've been working out, taking care of myself. Even though flour doesn't have an adverse effect on my system, I just stayed away from it for a little while, switched to, some of the carts that was recommended by a friend of mine, a cartridge. Um, and you know, it's been doing better. It's better for my lungs. I'll say that. Um, and I guess that ultimately depends on what type of carts you're using, so on and so forth. But that's besides the point. I just wanted to touch base, a little bit because me and Miss Blick go way back. Um, but the first thing I wanted to cover today is AI, right? How AI is affecting YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Meta, everything, how AI is essentially affecting the planet. And specifically, right? Because I want these two things to be separate. On one hand, how AI is affecting the planet just in general, then on the other hand, how people's implementation and irresponsible use of AI is affecting the planet, right? Because AI is going to have an impact one way or the other. It's currently, right, as far as we know, not really self-aware. It's apparently getting close, but like as far as we know, AI is not currently self-aware on a grand scale, which means AI is going to do what it is programmed to do, nothing more, nothing less. And because of human error, we do not always know what the parameters are for that behavior. We can try to set certain parameters, right? But if an artificial intelligence is designed to poke at any and all weaknesses, it will eventually do that and start behaving outside of its parameters based off of any little loophole it can find, right? So that's basically why I wanted to, separate the two. Because on one hand, AI does have the ability to kind of just do that on its own. But then on top of that, when you're being irresponsible with your use, your creation of, your maintenance of AI, so on and so forth, that adds another layer to the problem. And basically, I wanted to say that AI is not really the main problem. People are the main problem, right? And like I said in my video, the problem is that people don't care about people, they care about being entertained. So no matter what type of people you're dealing with, no matter what type of people are benefiting directly from your attention, right? Even if you rant about them on social media, call them out their name, no matter how disrespectful you are, right? You're still bringing attention to their content, to their face, to their name, one way or the other, right? And as long as you care more about being entertained than you care about the people, you will always put the wrong people in a position where they have more attention, right? More resources and ultimately more power than the people who would protect you, right? Than the people who would have your back, than the people who would give their last dollar to make sure you and your family don't starve, right? And I'm just going to throw out a few examples. Markiplier is a content creator who has consistently shown time and time again, regardless of whatever the fuck is going on in his personal life, he will continue to do his absolute best to hold true to the values that Papa Markiplier, you feel what I'm saying? And you feel me, like the fans know him for having. You feel what I'm saying? Right? Like everyone in his personal life and outside of his personal life that knows of him or has met him personally, right? These people have faith that he will continue to be the best version of him that he can be. Same for like People like Jacksepticeye, right? People like Dashy Games, right? People like what's his name? Michael Threets, right? You have certain content creators who, regardless of their disposition, regardless of their palatability, right? Their palatability meaning how easily digestible, their content is to any given person, right? Regardless of how much you like them, regardless of their likability, these people are trusted by hundreds of thousands, if not millions of individuals on this planet when it comes to, okay, I trust that you'll do the right thing. Plain and simple, right? It's a case by case basis, obviously, but like in the general sense, we trust that these people will do the right thing. We have faith that these people will do the right thing. But on the flip side, you have more than enough, right? The vast majority of YouTube, Twitch, etc. Most of these people are content creators, influencers, grifters that y'all have no fucking proof of their innocence, their benevolence, so on and so forth. Most of the time, we have no valid proof that these people are good people. They're just more popular than you are on social media. They're getting a lot of attention, and it seems like they have more money than you. And automatically, in a lot of people's minds, they'll automatically assume that this means this person is trustworthy, this person is successful for all of the right reasons. And then finally, when you find out, oh, that Mini Lad did this, and you feel what I'm saying, oh, Yami Mash, he cheated, or all of these different content creators doing things that can be considered immoral. Whether you consider this person evil, right, because they groomed a child, or you're just mad because, they cheated on their girlfriend or some shit. Either way, there's an entire spectrum of behavior that exists. And because people care more about being entertained than they care about the people, they need these grandiose, blatantly obvious, and, grossly what is it, grossly unethical situations to blow up in their face before they recognize that they're supporting the wrong people. And then even once those things happen, right, people will go out of their way to minimize the actual negative impact while simultaneously putting a statute of limitations on how long you're allowed to not fuck with a certain content creator because they did some shit that was inappropriate or because they did some shit that was straight up evil. And I want y'all to I want y'all to consider this as an example. First of all, you have people that are currently in the limelight, right? People who are currently being criticized online because of the things that they said, things that they did, or what they didn't say or didn't do in defense of somebody or in response to some injustice. Then you have people who used to be in the limelight, who used to be constantly talked about because of the shit that they did or didn't do, said or didn't say, right? Someone who's in the limelight right now, EDP. I've just seen videos not too long ago over the past month or so with people talking about how EDP keeps trying to come back to the platform. He keeps trying to show up on other platforms and make his money, oh, I'm innocent, or you feel what I'm saying? They're slandering my name, or, et cetera, et cetera. If you've seen his content, you've seen his responses, then you know how he's responded to the criticism. On the flip side, you have somebody like Minilad, who's no longer in the public eye, right? I haven't seen any videos about him recently. I haven't seen any, clips of him trying to come back to YouTube or anything like that, right? So I could be wrong. I could have just missed something. But the idea is EDP is currently in the limelight, right? People are still focused on him, still making content about him. Minilad is over here. I haven't seen anybody make content about him for a while, even though people from Vanos crew every now and again they'll throw little jabs. You feel me? But they knew him personally. They're more than allowed to throw them type of jabs. If you knew somebody personally and they betrayed you like that, you feel what I'm saying? They betrayed the brotherhood, the sisterhood, the fucking I'm just a human being and I promised my friends I wasn't gonna do some crazy shit. I'm not gonna put a statute of limitations on how long Vanos crew is allowed to, you feel me, say some slick shit or throw little jabs, like I said, to be petty or vindictive, whatever. I don't know what type of pain his actions caused his friends. I can't police their emotions. That just don't make sense. Because first of all, I would have to have the academic or professional experience in the behavioral sciences and communication to effectively and responsibly do so. Otherwise, I'm just talking out the side of my neck. I'm talking out my ass. I'm really just making shit up as I go along, or trying to project some of the things that work for me, right? Oh, my parents taught me this, or whatever, whatever. But because I assume that it works for me, or because no one has ever effectively challenged me yet, I don't ever question myself. I just think that I have a right to say whatever to whoever, right? So let's get back to the main point that I'm trying to make. In situations where the person isn't all that popular, or they haven't had this huge years long impact on the community, you'll notice that pretty much everybody seems 100% okay with talking shit about that person. I have yet to see a single person come out with a video saying, EDP, you feel what I'm saying? It's not even that serious, or, I just think that maybe we should listen to him. And no, every single video I've seen criticizes that man. Not a single person I've seen on YouTube or Twitch has ever, and again, I could be wrong. I'm leaving the door open. I understand that my perspective and my anecdotal experience on YouTube and Twitch is not indicative of what the fuck the whole entire platform is like, right? So I'm not trying to project, you feel me, anything. I'm not trying to, you feel me, act like my experience is the only experience that matters. I'm just saying, I haven't seen it. Same with Mini Lad. I didn't see anybody sticking up for Mini Lad back then or right now, especially considering the people in Vanos crew reacted so fucking quickly to the shit. So with that being said, I'm going to take it over in a different direction, and I want to talk a little bit about PewDiePie and Asmongold, because by comparison, right, they are also on the spectrum of they said and or did some immoral shit, or they didn't say or didn't do something that would have indicated that they had morals and shit like that. So they didn't stick up for somebody in the face of injustice, or they didn't speak out in the face of injustice. They're, they've said and done something or whatever that just wasn't right. PewDiePie is no longer in the main fucking, spotlight, in the limelight, for the fact that there are compilation videos on YouTube of him saying the N-word. I remember those compilation videos. I remember how Cinnamon Toast Ken responded. I remember how, Cry and all of these other different content creators he was making video after video with, constantly collaborating with. I saw how they all got awkward as fuck on camera and was basically like, I don't agree with anything that was said at all. And you can tell, right? They're not, if somebody had came to them and told them that it was said, they might not have fully believed it. You feel what I'm saying? Like, you can tell in certain instances that they were just super awkward, and I don't even want to make this video, bro. Why did you get caught? Right? It wasn't that, oh, I can't believe PewDiePie said the N-word. It was, I can't believe he got caught. To them, right, the whole vibe. And again, I could be wrong. I'm not a fucking mind reader. You feel what I'm saying? So I'm leaving the door open. But from my perspective, as an educated man, you feel me? Compilation video is crazy. You feel me? Not the compilation, the, the complications in the compilations. You feel me? Shout out to Thick Brick Empress. Shout out to Miss Brick. Shout out to Miss Blick and Thick Brick Empress in the chat. I see y'all leaving comments and messages and shit. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for being here. More than once is draining me. I'm saying. But the idea is, watching some of those content creators, I distinctly remember this feeling in my heart and in the pit of my stomach that's like, you're not making this video because you have black friends and you're upset about the way this impacts your black fans and black friends of yours on the platform, your black peers. You're upset because he got caught. That's what this is. You're just upset that he got caught. So basically, one of the points that's kind of wrapped up in the major point is, y'all got to understand, just because a content creator comes out and says, that's unacceptable, blah, 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 I can't believe he would do that, you got to dig a little deeper. Sometimes they're just making that video because they don't want to get caught up in the controversy. They don't give a fuck about their black fans. They don't give a fuck about their peers on the platform that are also black. They just didn't want to get caught up. They're just mad that PewDiePie got caught. That's it. Right? But again, He's not in the limelight. He's not in the main spotlight anymore. So when I talk about this, I'm not talking about this as, oh, I need him to get canceled immediately. What I'm saying is he did some dirty shit, right? He did something that was considered immoral, something that was unethical, however you want to spin it. But he continued to make money on this platform. His life was not ruined. His money flow was not dampened to a point where it actually threatened his way of life. He still continued to be rich. He still continued to be one of the most subscribed people on the platform. Not much fucking changed. You can say, oh, he Disney didn't want to work with him and blah blah. So the fuck what? This man is still on the platform last time I checked. This man was still able to make a living for himself on the same platform in which he created that fucked up impact in the first place. And again, there are compilation videos of him saying the N word, variations of that shit. So like, let's not act like it was a one-time thing. Let's not act like, oh, it was just a mistake. Because I've even had black content creators hop on this fucking platform, right? And talk about how, in the heat of the moment, sometimes, people think about the worst thing they could say, and then it just comes out, and I'm just thinking, are you out your fucking mind? Right? So let's move on to the Asmon Gold situation so that I could tie these two things together and help y'all understand my whole point. Asmon Gold is currently in the limelight. He's currently in the spotlight. He's currently being criticized pretty much on the daily fucking basis, multiple times a day, multiple videos a day sometimes, where people are analyzing his content, educated people, people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about. There's all different types of people all across the spectrum who got something to say. Is Asmon Gold listening to the most educated black people talk about why he's full of shit or why he's not a good person, why this is that and the third, why he's a grifter or whatever? No. Is Asmon Gold gonna suddenly stop, you feel me, making content just because he's been proven to be a racist? No, none of that shit matters to Asmon Gold. He's gonna continue doing what he's doing, right? But he continues to make money on these platforms without an issue. So clearly, YouTube doesn't give a fuck, right? And when I say YouTube, I mean the people who have the most control over what happens on the platform. YouTube doesn't give a fuck. Twitch doesn't give a fuck. Kick doesn't give a fuck. None of these companies give a fuck. Yet and still, we hop on these platforms to complain about it, not realizing that these platforms are just going to continuously capitalize on both the inappropriate, immoral, unethical shit, as well as how everyone's responding to the immoral, unethical shit. They're capitalizing and profiting off of both of these things, capitalizing on and profiting off of both of these things. Because I said capitalizing and profiting off, like grammar, grammar shit in my brain. My autism was like, no, I got to go back and correct it. Sometimes I can get past the grammar shit. Sometimes I can't. My ADHD/autism is kind of weird like that. Bear with me. Please be patient. But essentially, my point is both PewDiePie and Asmongold are prime examples of white people who manage to say and do unethical shit, right? And again, if y'all don't know, one of the other things PewDiePie did was he promoted a clothing brand that was strikingly similar to Nazi wear, right? Like Nazi outfits, SS officer wear. He also there was a group of foreign dudes. I don't know where they're from, so I'm just saying they're foreign dudes. Forgive me. I don't know their ethnicity. I don't know their nationality. But what they would do was they would go on. They had an account on Fiverr, and people could pay them to basically hold up a sign and say random things. Right? They didn't speak English that well, so they was basically sounding out a lot of stuff. Now, to this day, I don't know if these people were anti-Semitic. I don't know if these people were, you feel what I'm saying, just unaware and they were doing it for the money. But either way, he sent them something to say that was negative about Jewish people. And I'm just going to leave it at that. If you want to find out, go do your own research so that you can contextualize some of that information. You feel what I'm saying? I'm not going to say it on my platform because, yeah, it's super weird to me as an educated black person. It just seems super weird that some people will go out of their way, right? Especially if they're not white, especially if they are white or simply they aren't a black person. They'll go out of their way to flat out say some variation of nigga as they're describing what the racist person did. And it's like I don't want to use those type of slurs towards other demographics of people because I feel like that's pretty much the same thing. Just because I'm a black man and slavery and all that, that don't mean I'ma just go and do that. Some people don't know better and it's okay, but I know better, therefore I try to do better. With that being said, understanding that PewDiePie laid the foundation for people like Asmongold, understanding there's a direct correlation between the two. One of the points that I want to make is this. Number one, these companies clearly don't give a fuck. They're capitalizing on and benefiting from and profiting off of the immoral, unethical shit that's being posted on this platform. They know it's provocative. They know it's antagonistic. That's why they keep letting these content creators post that type of content because they know it's going to make them and their advertisers a lot of money. So, with that being said, right? Be very, very careful and be very selective, I should say, about the content y'all choose to talk about and the content y'all choose to promote. Try to find ways to avoid going to the actual unethical and immoral person's page and instead find a way to reroute that attention back to something that's more positive, something that's actually effective when it comes to improving everybody's quality of life. I'm just saying that would be a much better way of you feel what I'm saying going about this. That less you feel like that's let's just stray away from being irresponsible with our attention on every level. That's everybody. Then on top of that, the next point that I want to make is this. If you are an educated person and you've been paying attention, whether you voted for Trump or you voted for Kamala or you didn't vote, you recognize that the person who was in the White House effectively changed the overall disposition that a lot of Americans had. Not even just Americans, people across the entire planet. So if you know that when Obama was in office, black people, had a little more, you feel what I'm saying, confidence when it came to, talking about certain things, when it comes to socioeconomics, when it comes to politics, right? Obama being in office lit a fire up under a lot of black folks' asses, and education suddenly became key again. Suddenly it was attractive and it was cool for black men to be like, you feel me, refined and educated and all of this other stuff. Now I use a lot of slang, right? African American vernacular English is my shit. I love it. It doesn't take away from me being an educated person, right? In the objective sense, but not everybody is going to be able to, you feel what I'm saying, understand that. Doesn't mean they're right, doesn't mean it makes sense that they don't understand it or that they refuse to accept that, my use of slang is not indicative of my intelligence or lack thereof. However, you recognize that having Obama in office kind of changed a lot of people's disposition and empowered people to behave a certain way. Trump being in office changed a lot of people and empowered people to behave a certain way. The same thing applies to the content creators y'all watch on social media. So when you have somebody like Nick Fuentes saying, your body, my rules, right? What does that do to people? To adults who are paying attention to politics, certain people being in office, certain people being in Congress, it changes the way they see the world around them and it empowers them to say and do things that maybe they normally wouldn't have had the confidence to say and do. Or things that they only say and do behind closed doors. Now they have the confidence to say and do it out in public. So if you know that about politics and you know how it can affect socioeconomics, think about the different content creators we consume on social media and recognize that the same way certain politicians and influencers have that effect on adults, these content creators have that exact same effect on y'all kids. So every single child on the face of this entire fucking planet at any given time can be unnaturally and unhealthily manipulated into having narcissistic personality disorder or traits associated with it, right? They can be manipulated into being on the spectrum of antisocial personality disorder, sociopathy, psychopathy, purely because of the content creators they are watching. All this education and information making my brain big and juicy. I'm glad. You feel what I'm saying? Pump up the brain meats. You feel what I'm saying? Everybody pump up the brain meats. Read a couple of bookie books. You feel what I'm saying? Shout out to Oliver Speaks. No matter how old you are, no matter what your journey has been thus far, it's never too late for you to start your journey. Shout out to Michael Three. Shout out to Reading Rainbow. I want to be on an episode of Reading Rainbow one day. That's one of my dreams. I want to be on an episode of Sesame Street as well. Like I want so badly to be a part of that, to do something big, to like really, you feel what I'm saying? But like, yeah, yo said, I feel a wrinkle for me. You feel what I'm saying? Get them neurons all charged up. But essentially, my point is this. The same way these things can affect and indoctrinate adults who maybe have lost their way or never had a way to begin with because they've been in the dark since they was kids, these children are also being targeted by these grifters. And the reality is this: Asmund Gold really doesn't care if you live or die. No matter what he says to you about, his ideology or, what he cares about, I promise you, these people don't care. They don't. They're apathetic. They want the money, they want the attention, and they'll say and do whatever to get the money and to get the attention. And no matter how much somebody tells you, oh, it ain't about the money, it ain't about this, follow the paper trail. Do you think people like Asmund Gold are willing to die and be starving and homeless? No, that's why pretty much every single content creator you've ever come across who makes that type of content, right? Eventually, when somebody starts tapping their pockets, freezing their bank accounts, all of a sudden they get to changing their tune. Eventually, it runs out, or they die stupid. Every single content creator I've come across, that's usually how things play out. Or they get lucky because they can effectively pivot to a different type of content. Look at Andrew Tate, for example. Andrew Tate's face was everywhere. Then all of a sudden, when his fans found out he had weaknesses, when his fans found out that your arrogance does not protect you from the law, right? That all of that bravado really doesn't get you anywhere when you're in a ring with somebody who can really fucking fight. All of a sudden, you don't see his face at the same rate that you used to. And I'm not saying that's just because of his fans, right? Remember what I said about advertisers. Remember what I said about these platforms not giving a fuck. It's because these people realized that Andrew Tate wasn't profitable anymore. So finally, Andrew Tate started to see some repercussions. And I'm talking about at the beginning, right? When people first started, you feel me, getting on him. When people first started getting on his ass and, trying to get him the fuck up out of here, he continued to be on these platforms with no problem whatsoever. He was reacting to content that other people was making about him. But then all of a sudden, when people started touching his pockets, all of a sudden, when the advertisers and the people running these platforms realized, oh, it's not really as profitable because people just want to ignore him. People don't want him to be here anymore. Hmm. All of a sudden, he stopped being on the front page. All of a sudden, when you go to YouTube, if you don't have an account, and there's no Google Analytics attached to your shit, all of a sudden Andrew Tate isn't on the front page like he used to be. But at the same time, there are other content creators in the same fucking thought bubble, in the same echo chamber, who are now replacing him. But people like Andrew Tate, people like PewDiePie, they laid the foundation for people like Nick Fuentes. They laid the foundation for people like Asmund Gold. So when you think about how content has evolved over the years, a lot of things change, but a lot of things stay the same. So understand that number one, these advertisers don't really care. Number two, we need to be a lot more responsible with our attention, pretty like just in pretty much every aspect of our lives, period. And number three, right? We have to admit, and this is kind of a two-part thing, we have to admit that these people do have an impact while simultaneously understanding that when these people do have a negative impact, There will always be individuals who try to minimize the negative impact while simultaneously placing a statute of limitation on how long you're allowed to not fuck with a certain content creator because of the things they've said and done. Now I want to move on to talking about content creation that's actually positive and, beautiful and effective and all of that. Because I made a video about how I was doing a little bit of research and realized that when it comes to the healthiest foods we can grow and eat, various people of the government over the last 50 plus years have gone out of their way to make sure the healthiest things we can eat and grow are not grown, are not sold, and are not depicted in textbooks in predominantly Black areas. And then over the years, as people from other ethnic groups started suffering because of capitalism, started suffering because of how systemic racism affects everybody down the line, right? It affects Black people first and the hardest, but it affects everybody in the long term, right? When people started seeing that from different ethnic groups and different walks of life, different ways of life, all of a sudden, in areas that were supposed to be for predominantly Black people, right, and Asian immigrants and Middle Eastern immigrants and people of Mexican heritage and Latin heritage, all of that, all of a sudden, right, we start seeing people fallen for the same systems, the same broken systems and the same, tricks and, you know, missteps that Black people were falling for. But because nobody ever truly accepted that systemic racism and capitalism were the cause, people just looked the other way and then immediately hop, skipped, and jumped to, it affects everybody. Systemic racism isn't real. This isn't about Black people because my family was poor too. Not realizing that this system was designed to trap Black people. You getting trapped in the system that was designed to trap Black people doesn't mean your life is just, you know, automatically on the same level of fucked upness as an average Black person's life may be. But again, because nobody stopped to really say, okay, systemic racism and all of these things, it affects everybody in the long term, but it definitely hits Black people the hardest. Maybe we should link up and do something about this, right? Maybe we should stop telling Black people that, oh, they just have victim mentalities. Maybe we should understand there's a difference between an excuse versus someone explaining to you in detail what led up to this point. But when it comes to content creators who make positive content, understanding that agricultural racism is why the healthiest foods we can grow and eat are not grown, sold, or depicted in these textbooks, right? And that even if you live in these fucked up areas, in these impoverished areas, even if you grew up poor as a person of color or as a white passing person of color or as a white person in general, these systems still exist because of systemic racism. So when I'm doing a little bit of digging about these practices, about these laws, about these bills, about the way these things have been handled for a very long time, I'm looking at Black Forager and I'm like, wait a minute. Now I'm understanding the intense, you know, impactful importance of what it is this woman is doing. Because I already knew she was dope as fuck, but now it just makes 100 times more sense. This woman is literally trying to save millions, potentially billions of lives in the long term. Then I start doing research. Commercial seeds are like, mass produced, red tomatoes aren't even the healthiest tomatoes. Yellow corn isn't even the healthiest corn. It's purple tomatoes and blue corn and all of these other different types of foods and shit. And I'm learning about it. And you feel me? The squad, the Squiggity squad is sending me different posts and links and while we're on Discord, they're telling me different things about, oh, this is a fly trap, right? But not all plants that can catch and eat insects and digest insects are considered fly traps. You feel what I'm saying? Some of these are considered this, or some of these are considered that. Different flowers and medicinal herbs versus culinary herbs and heirloom seeds. Then I started my own company, right? Botanical Blacktivity. where we have over 26,000 heirloom seeds that we be giving away for free for the free Skilabisky. Just straight giving them away, mailing them out to people. It costs like $8 for each package to get mailed out, but I'm still doing my best. You feel what I'm saying? Taking my little YouTube money or my Twitch money, whatever little commissions I get for verses that I write, because I'm a creative writer. So people be sending me bread just to have me write shit for them or to have me write and perform the shit for them. Taking that money, spending it on seeds. You feel what I'm saying? The Squiggity Squad spending their hard-earned money on trying to make sure my company stays afloat. You know, my charitable organization stays afloat, and realizing like, oh, a lot of people think that this is just content creation. Again, because they care more about entertainment than anything else. They don't care about the people. So like I knew already that Black Forager was on some next level stuff. But because I'm now recognizing how many people only see it as entertainment, now it's 100 times more impactful because it's like, oh, we're the minority. We're damn near alone in this. We're surrounded by people that's liking our shit, commenting on our shit, retweeting all of that, reposting it. But them interacting with our content is where the buck stops. They are literally using the fact that they interact with our content as the whole reason and all the proof of their change and of them being a good person. We are being gaslit by our own audiences, people like Dr. Max Butterfield, the Dadvocate, Black Forager, Michael Freaks, everybody. We are being gaslit by our own audiences into thinking that these people are actually good natured people. They're not as good or as benevolent or as educated as they pretend to be. They are literally, right? The vast majority of our fan bases are knowingly and unknowingly using the fact that they interact with our content as the proof of them being a good person. They don't really do the work. They not willing to learn how to do the work because maybe they're burnt out or whatever the case may be. But the bottom line is there are millions, tens of millions, maybe even hundreds of millions of people who are constantly going on social media. They don't even believe in the shit that we're saying sometimes. They just know it sounds good. They didn't even really listen to everything we had to say for real, for real, for real. They just knew that it sounded good in the moment. And because of our popularity, because of our resources, right? Our finances, because of our status, one way or the other, they just decided that what we were saying, it hit, it sounded good, and it's all they needed to know. Sometimes they don't even let us finish a thought before they start reposting something, giving comments, you feel me, little finger snaps and all type of shit. Think about that. So just imagine, right? And I'm not just talking out the side of my neck. Over half of the adult population in the United States has sixth grade reading and comprehension or below, with about 44 to 45% of the adult population or more having eighth grade reading and comprehension or below. Reading and comprehension, don't just hear the words that I'm saying. Fully internalize what the term reading and comprehension means. It means your ability to read and your ability to comprehend information is at or below the sixth grade level. Now we have teachers on social media saying kids who are in the eighth grade have fourth grade reading and comprehension. I need y'all to think about this. This means that based on the standards we have now, someone who has eighth grade reading and comprehension is really fourth grade reading and comprehension. And someone who has sixth grade reading and comprehension or below really has fourth grade reading and comprehension or below. That means most adults in the United States are operating at the level of the dumbest middle schoolers you ever met as a 90s kid. Internalize that. Take a minute. Really think about what that means. That means our collective experience is constantly being dragged down by the fact that the majority of the American population, and likely the majority of every other population on this fucking planet, has gotten to a point where they don't care how things work. They just want shit to work. They don't care about the people. They just want to be entertained. Y'all understand that? Y'all understand that means most people are lying 24/7. Everybody's just lying. And I know that I'm kind of going from one thing to another, but think about it. How dumb were you as a kid to a point where you would lie about anything and everything because the moment somebody asked you a question, somewhere in your fucking brain, you just automatically felt like you had to lie about it. Because anytime you feel exposed or vulnerable, you feel what I'm saying? Shit gets weird. Shit goes left. Shit gets a little wonky. Like you don't really feel confident. It's And because we've all spent like decades of our lives existing in this narcissistic, antisocial soup, this people soup of bullshit, right? We've all gotten to a point where either we're masking, unmasking, or not even consciously aware of the huge gap between who we truly are versus who we pretend to be. Because we're so used to having that knee-jerk reaction of just fitting that role, right? Gender roles, all of that different type of stuff. Oh, well, a real man, if you was a real man, oh, men used to go to war and die, right? The same way people call women mothers, right? And they regulate their existence to their ability to provide children. Men's existence gets regulated to their ability to provide resources, whether it's emotional labor, physical labor, status, money, what have you. That's what this is. That's what this has become. And it's because of the reading and comprehension. Think about it, for example. Racism exists everywhere. No matter where you go as a black person, you're probably going to come across a racist piece of shit that just feels like in the moment they want to call you, the N word, but in a different language. It's always something. So with that being said, if everywhere you go, you got women and men abusing each other, abusing kids, you got people saying and doing racist stuff, you know, Brexit, how people in the UK been reacting to black people and Muslims, right? How Indian people have the caste system, right? Think about that. It's everywhere. We've already had multiple psychologists, multiple scientists of different type flat out say that racism and narcissism are innately linked, and that narcissism is also linked to like terrible reading and comprehension, or on some level you having problems with your cognitive abilities, with your reading and comprehension. Rarely will you come across a person that has critical thinking skills, emotional intelligence, empathy, social calibration, self-awareness, and kindness, and still chooses to be a racist individual. Either that person is consistently terrible, or they're a person with conditional cognitive aptitude, right? And let it be known, I am the person who coined that term. There's nobody else who did that. Conditional cognitive aptitude, where like who your ability to process information on a cognitive level, internally, externally, changes drastically depending on your emotional state, and your emotional state is dependent on how willing you are to receive the information that's being presented to you. So the moment you call a white person racist, right? If they hate the idea of being called a racist person, they will immediately react and their cognitive aptitude will nosedive. That's why sometimes when you come across Trump supporters, right, in them little clips where people would ask them, yeah, what's a tariff? Or they would ask them one little question and that person would start to go off on a tangent like, when the tariffs are going to bring back jobs and blah blah blah, and then a person who works in the manufacturing industry comes to talk to them and says, no, no, we are the ones who pay for the tariffs. We, the consumer, we are the ones who pay. We have to foot the bill for that. And that person is arguing, no, no, no. And then boom, boom, boom. That person repeatedly hits them with fact after fact after fact after fact until finally that person's nervous system calms down. Like an upset kid that's mad because they can't eat cookies for dinner every night, and they're no, I want the cookie. And all they can do is be frustrated because they can't eat fucking gummy worms for dinner every night. But when they get sick and throw up, no, I'm sick. And now you gotta care for a little motherfucker that was just mad at you and throwing a tantrum a few minutes ago because they couldn't eat it. Then you gave it to them, now they sick. And now you're mad because they're sick and they're upset because they're sick. Everybody's just mad. But if you don't comfort them, you're a bad parent. But the idea is if you would have never gave them the gummy worms in the first place, then they would have just had to deal with the anger the way they deal with the anger. But when you're dealing with a grown adult, that grown adult can go do grown adult shit and they can negatively impact the world around them in a grandiose fashion. That's the problem. So you see their nervous system finally calm down. You see them finally get out of their emotional state and they're like, "What? The terrorists? Nah, man. You mean he lied?" And finally, the shock value or the fact that somebody calmly sat there and pandered to them like they were a child and slowly but surely talked them down and soothed them so that their nervous system would finally calm down. They finally get to a point where their cognitive aptitude has finally gone back up and they can comprehend information at a level that is anywhere near effective, to where they're not being contrarianistic anymore, saying the opposite of everything, the black person says. They're finally taking it all in. Now, right? That's just one person who gets it. What do you think happens when, as a content creator, you post that? You think all of a sudden all of these Trump supporters are going to be like, wow, I never realized. No, it's a lot of Trump supporters that be gaslighting the hell out of people, trying to act like, oh, I left my racist past behind because, content creators like, what's the one dude? I forgot his name. It's so weird. Like JJ, for example, right? Like, oh, JJ posted this video where he disputed everything that the one dude, Jeff said, and now it all makes sense to me. Underneath all of that fake, oh, I'm liking, I'm commenting, I'm reposting, basically going back to the point that I was making before to help reinforce that point. These types of people will get the answer, right? The nervous system will calm down. They'll recognize, oh, I finally understand. I get it now. I was being lied to. But when they go back to their echo chamber, right, it all disappears. Because again, these people don't want to know the truth. What they want is for what they're saying to be right. And they don't care how many people have to pass away or, get sick, become disabled. Ultimately, right? Because everybody is, or not everybody, because the vast majority of adults in the US are operating at or below that sixth or eighth grade reading and comprehension, right? And again, teachers have said that people in the eighth grade right now have fourth grade reading and comprehension or lower. That means everybody is like four or more grades lower, two or more grades lower. So again, if you think people are operating at sixth grade reading and comprehension or below, it's probably four or lower than that. And that's what most adults in the US are on right now. The largest demographic of adults and the second largest demographic of adults are literally incapable of keeping up with the level of information, with the level of effort that's required to be a genuinely and consistently good-natured individual that has a healthy relationship with the world around them. Internalize that. Take that in. We're surrounded by children that have the same level of physical strength as adults, the same level of mobility as an adult, because physically they are an adult, but mentally they are still 14, 15, 16 years old. So when we talk about really amazing content creators like Michael Threets and Oliver Speaks, trying to motivate people to start their library kid journeys, right? You're never too old to be a library kid, never too old to pick up a book for the first time. Do your best. We believe in you. Black Forager, you feel what I'm saying? Teaching people, like, which one is poison, which one is a snack. You feel what I'm saying? We got to understand that these content creators, on one hand, to make sure my point is understood, on one hand, these people are being gaslit by their own audience into thinking they have more of an impact than they actually do. And I'm not saying that, Michael Threets and Black Forager are running around like, yes, I am she, or I am he, and I am the greatest, or that they're wrong for thinking they have a positive impact. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's such a large demographic of adults in the US on BS that consistently, on a day-to-day basis, various content creators like Michael Threets, like Black Forager, like Dr. Max Butterfield, you feel what I'm saying? People are being gaslit into believing they have more fans than they actually do, or that they have more great minds than they actually have. Because again, like I said before, people are literally using the fact that they like our content, that they comment on our content, the fact that they repost our content as the example or the proof of their change. So most people aren't even like good people. They're just different levels of careful. And everybody's so good at talking about how everybody else is a bad person that you never ask, all right, well, what does this person over here got going on? Everybody's talking about how, oh, women are like this, and these B words, and and these niggas, and men are this and women are that, and all of this, bioessentialism, all of this gender war BS, all of this, irresponsible throwing everybody throwing their weight around, trying their best. Oh, I love to bully, I bully women, or I love to bully men. I love to terrorize men. I'm such a misandrist, or I'm such a misogynist, or oh, I'm based. I'm red pilled. It's all the same thing, just a bunch of little kids in adult bodies going tit for tat, trying to get it back in blood on somebody who isn't even the person who harmed them. Think about this. The men and women who have gotten abused over the years, they don't ever take that to somebody who actually abused them. Think about it. I got abused by my family. I can't go do nothing to my family because if I go smack the out of somebody, I'm going to jail. That's it. It don't matter how many women in my family sexually assaulted me. It don't matter that my own grandmother told me, don't nobody care you got raped. So what? You're not special. Everybody gets raped. It don't matter that my birth mother didn't have my back. It don't matter that I remember what my Aunt Coochie looked like, that I remember her, how she smiled at me when she saw that I saw. It don't matter that I remember what my girl cousin tastes like in my mouth. It don't matter that I told everybody and that I was raised by a matriarchy and that none of the women in my family protected me. At the end of the day, even if I know beyond the shadow of a doubt, even if I have proof that the myth of the morally superior matriarchy is built on the backs, on the spines, on the broken bodies and souls of abused men and boys who remain silent, at the end of the day, it's popular on social media right now to behave as though women are just naturally better people, and that women are just naturally safer around children, and so on and so forth. Or that misandry isn't real, and that misandry doesn't actually get men abused or killed. Not realizing, right? Oh, oh, you're just the exception. Yeah, your grandmother might be, a bit of a misandrist. The women in your family might be, misandrist, constantly talking about how men aren't shit, and, this is that and the third, but you're just the exception. I'm just the exception. Think about that. In the eyes of people on social media right now, I am nothing more than the exception. Why? Because at the end of the day, no matter how many videos Dr. Max Butterfield puts out exposing these grifters for being bullshitters, no matter how many videos different psychologists of different walks of life or different therapists like Raheem, right? No matter how many videos motherfuckers put out, at the end of the day, the vast majority of adults in the US, and by proxy, most of their fan base, they're not really that benevolent. They're not really that kind. They're not really that educated. We're all being gaslit by the people who make us go viral. I have viral videos. I know from whence I speak. I've seen how a video goes viral, and you have people in your comments telling you you're perfect. I'm one of those men who didn't have to thirst after women my whole life because I'm autistic and I just decided, you know what? The human brain can only catalog like 500 unique features or something like that. So at any given time, it's only a certain amount of people my brain can even remember. Why would I focus on all of the people who think I'm ugly or think I'm unlovable when I could instead just focus on the people who think I'm dope as hell? I'm one of the lucky ones. So when I went viral, even actually no, before I went viral, right? I was already getting attention from women. Then after I went viral, all of a sudden I was getting more attention from women. But what I noticed is that these women weren't really, you feel what I'm saying? They didn't mean anything they said. They didn't care about people. They cared about being entertained. And because my life story going viral was entertaining for them, right? All thinking kind of went out the window and all they did was profile me like a white woman with a fetish for black men. All they did was profile me. I was physically attractive enough, therefore everything else was easy. And when you take that into consideration and realize, okay, yeah, that might have been his experience, but what about everybody else? Then you start looking at people like what is his name, Derek, not Derek Braxton, is that his name, Derek Braxton? Is his name Derek Branks or Derek Jackson. Derek Jackson. Ladies, a man should apologize for even breathing the same air as you, ladies. Whole time he was cheating on his wife. And people with academic experience in the behavioral science, people with anecdotal experience with BSers, we kept telling people over and over again, there's something wrong with that man. I don't know what's going on, but he's pandering, right? And not on some typical, oh, oh, he's pandering by saying that women deserve basic respect. No, this man is pandering on a grifter level, right? We kept telling people, warning people, but nobody wanted to listen because he was saying all of the right stuff that stroked the narcissistic egos of a lot of different men and women out there and non binary people. You feel what I'm saying? Who wanted to see women be the ones who had all of the power or whatever because maybe they had been abused in their personal lives, right? And they overextended and basically overcompensated for their traumatic experiences by like leaning into people who were obviously being grifters. So the same way we say a lot of Trump supporters voted for Trump to be petty because they in their minds, right? This whole socioeconomic political discourse is literally just a goofy ass tit for tat back and forth. It's just them being petty, aha, liberal tears. It's the same thing men and women are doing to each other on the internet right now. So as content creators, when you see people in your comments making your content go viral, doing all of the snapping and the finger snaps and yes sis, when you see people helping, you feel me, enlarge your echo chamber. As a content creator, you need to be very careful. You need to make sure that you're being a lot more responsible with the things you say, with the things you believe, because at least 7 times out of 10, maybe even more than that, the people who are making your content go viral, they are doing that to to help mask what type of people they really are. Because being platonic friends with different men and women over the years, right? And I specifically mean this, I do not have guy time. I might have some alone time where I'm just in my own mind meditating, but I don't have guy time. Why? Because some of my closest friends are women. I have platonic, healthy relationships with some women who got their own partners, and some of them don't have partners, but we still respect each other enough not to try each other. In being platonic friends with different types of people, right? I've learned that a lot of people really aren't good people. They're not as benevolent as they pretend to be. They just do a really good job at pretending that they're good, right? At masking their darkness. And they do so by constantly complaining about what everybody else is doing in an irresponsible, petty ass manner. So the people who you know who are the pettiest, right? The people who you feel me, their whole everything that comes out of their damn mouth is basically a meme, a Justin LA boy meme. Some goofy back and forth stuff between men and women. Those are the people you need to be very, very careful around. Cause you think, oh, it's just jokes, right? It's just, pop culture references and memes and nah. These people are literally going out of their way to distract you from what type of people they really are inside. That's the real reason why your friends' relationships keep failing. That's the real reason why your siblings, your aunts and uncles and grandparents and your parents and all of these different people, your elders, whether they're your elders or your peers, that's really a lot of times and I'm not gonna say most of the time, but I'm gonna say more often than not, right? At least in my experience. That's the root cause of why most people's relationships fail, whether it's a platonic relationship or otherwise. It's because underneath all of the complaints, nobody really wants an egalitarian society. Nobody really wants equality. They want revenge. They want to trade places with their executioner. They want to be the one who gets to hurt people. They want to be the big jiggler abba goo giggler. They want to be the number one nut. You feel what I'm saying? Like they want to be they want to be the asshole. But because people are also cowardly, a lot more cowardly than they admit, what are they gonna do? They're not gonna go fight the man that abused them or fight the woman that abused them, right? Because they're scared to go to jail. It's not that deep for them. And there's nothing wrong with being afraid to go to jail. I get it. I understand it. You don't want to go to prison. I feel you on that. It's a lot of times I didn't run in a nigga mouth because I didn't want to go to prison. I understand. I empathize with you on that. But what I'm saying is, right? The cowardice is not specifically you being too afraid to go to jail. The cowardice is the fact that you know you're not willing to take that risk. So you'll try to find other ways to get at people, but you're not going to get at the people who hurt you. You're not going to be specific. You're not going to use intersectional feminism to make sure you're attacking the right men or attacking the right women or attacking the right non binary people. You're not going to filter your thoughts and feelings through the concept of egalitarianism to effectively make sure you're attacking the right people. No, 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 you're going to be a coward. You're going to generalize heavily. And then when people call you out for generalizing men or generalizing women, generalizing children of color in the fucked up system of adultification, right? You're gonna double down and say, well, I'm doing it because my life is in danger. Oh, well, women assault people too, and this is that and the third, and well, look at the statistical data, there'll always be an excuse for you to harm people who ain't do nothing to you. There's always going to be another excuse as to why, oh, you're in so much danger or you're so traumatized and you're so hurt that you're allowed to aim and fire into a crowd indiscriminately. And then when it comes down to things like, I would say on the flip side, right? Where people try to change the definition of words to fit whatever it is they're trying to accomplish. One of the things I've noticed is that nowadays, misogyny isn't actual misogyny, right? Any negative thing that a man does towards a woman is now kind of flipped on his head, and people will automatically try to attribute that to misogyny, some type of sexism, some type of something that's just bigger than what it actually was, right? It's weird how like nobody thinks that misogyny and misandry is what it actually is. Everybody on all sides seems to try to blur the lines and come up with their own definitions and parameters for what misogyny and misandry is. And that's just super weird to me because it falls in the same line as white people saying it's just a word, right? People just deciding that they have the power to take all of the impact out of a word just because they feel some type of way. Like, even though they're not even the affected demographic, right? Like, if I started calling everything misandry and it gained traction to a point where various women's lives on average would be negatively impacted in a serious manner because of the way I was perpetuating the irresponsible use of the word misandry. Then all of a sudden, right, people would probably understand a little bit more why it's important to have nuanced conversations, why it's important to handle this responsibly, why it's important not to just mislabel somebody as a misogynist just because they called some random woman out of their name, right? Because sometimes some women are just bad people, or they like to provoke somebody because they know, oh, if that man screams at me in public, he's the bad guy automatically. It doesn't even matter what happens. And I'll give you all an example. When my birth mother and her sister was younger, one of the main things that used to go on between them is one of them would say some real fucked up stuff, right? Like, oh, you know that's not really your father. You're not even really part of this family for real. And they would say it quietly, just loud enough for the other person to hear. And then when the other one gets all angry, you feel what I'm saying, and starts screaming and yelling, here come my grandmother screaming at the person who was screaming, yelling at the person who was yelling. Because no matter how you were provoked, no matter what somebody did to provoke you, if nobody sees the provocation, it doesn't matter. You are automatically the bad person, right? Now, we know black and brown men are statistically one of the most likely demographics to be purposefully left behind in education as early as pre-K. We know about the school to prison pipeline. We know that most of the time, black and brown boys, because of the adultification of our ethnic people within our ethnic group, oftentimes black and brown boys are forced out of the systems, right? That would help them excel until they finally age out of those systems, right? Now they're too big, they're too grown for that. It doesn't matter what they went through when they were a child. The only thing that matters is this person inconvenienced you or they did something negative to you. Not talking about actual, grape. I'm not talking about grapes. I'm not talking about grapists. I'm not talking about, murderers and all of that. I'm talking about people who said something you didn't like, right? They said something that was extremely messed up. How do we know for sure these people don't have gaps in knowledge that they came by honestly? Because I'm gonna be real with y'all. The misogynistic tendencies, right? Misogynistic tendencies I had when I was younger, that shit wasn't misogynistic tendencies. That was internalized misandry, right? Like narcissism in women that was directed towards men in a unique fashion, where like because men were like the problem or whatever, my birth mother was constantly telling me, oh, yeah, you're not going to be like these bum ass niggas and blah, 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 constantly comparing me to somebody else to a point where my entire concept of self care, self maintenance was wrapped up in whether or not a woman would find me attractive. I wasn't taught self care by my family through the filter of self love, and you just love yourself and you are important. And when you look in a mirror, you see a great young man, you see somebody who deserves to be taken care of, and you got to take care of yourself first. That's not how self care is presented to black boys on average. I don't know about brown boys, but that shit wasn't presented that way. It was presented to me as, hey, no girl gonna want to talk to you if your fingernails dirty. And then came the whole, oh, you don't. Uh, I don't want to say don't bring a white girl home, but I would prefer if you chose a black woman. White girls and women of color are fine, but I would prefer if you chose a black woman. Yeah, that's cool if you have a nuanced conversation with your kids about that shit. But if the conversation is not nuanced, right? You walk away from that conversation as a child believing, oh, well, white women just aren't as important. White women probably aren't as worthy of respect and consideration. Then because I'm grown, right? Maybe, and I'm not saying that's how I feel now, right? But that's how I felt maybe when I was like 14, 15, 16 years old. So as a 14, 15, 16-year old, thinking those things because that's what the fuck the conversation taught me, right? And again, you can't say that, oh, you that's not what she said. And no, you cannot up and just change the rules on how children's minds process information. It don't work like that. So think about it. A young black child walking away with that type of information that was given to them irresponsibly, all they're going to think is, well, I guess white girls are just less worthy of respect, less important. They are somehow less than. I don't know how or why, but they're less than because my mother said so. So imagine being a young man being told by your black mother, I mean, if you fall in love with a white girl or a Hispanic girl, I guess that's okay, but I would prefer a black woman. So you internalize that as, oh, well, black women are up here, women of color are here, and white girls are down here. So then you walk away with that type of energy, but you get labeled as a misogynist even though your mother was the one who taught you that shit because she's so narcissistic and hateful and fucking spiteful to everybody, including you behind closed doors. That on one hand, when you get privileges out in public spaces, everybody's like, oh, there we go. Those boy moms again, those boy moms. Whole time she's abusing me behind closed doors and giving me extra privileges where y'all can see it so that nobody finds out how much of an abuser she is. And that's where mama's boys come from. You think mama's boys are just boys who really love their mothers? No. Every single mama's boy I've ever met was the victim of emotional incest. Every single mama's boy I ever met was a young man who couldn't bring himself to admit how mean his mother, how narcissistic, how sociopathic she truly was. But when we get out into the adult world, we've already been sabotaged by the education system. And I want y'all to consider something. Ruby Bridges helped desegregate an all white school on November 14th, 1960. On November 14th of this year, it will be 66 years. That's 66 years, approximately, of Black people sending their children to the enemy. Because for 60 years, white women, on average, have been voting for, married to, raising, right? And again, what is it? Raising and counseling white people who are just like Donald Trump, just like Asmongold, just like Nick Fuentes, while actively making up the majority of the education system. So for 60 plus years, roughly, almost, right, in November 14th, black people been sending their kids to the enemy. So while I'm at home being told, got no fucking, when you get a job, then you can talk about somebody getting on your damn nerves. When you pay some bills in this fucking house, then you can talk about somebody getting on your damn nerves. Shit. Well, you stop all that damn crying before I give you something to cry about. I'll bust you in your fucking head to the white meat show. I brought you in this damn world. I can take you up out of it. Being told by my own grandmother, you're not, so what? You're not special. Everybody gets raped. But at school, it's the white girl, you feel me? The white girls in my class hearing about the shit that the black women in my life, my girl cousin, you feel what I'm saying? The black women in my family, how they're abusing me. White girls in my class hear about it. What do they do? That's so messed up. Black girls in my class, what did they do? What did you do? Asking me what I did to be treated that way. Because in the minds of even black girls who was my age when I was a teenager, they had already been indoctrinated to the idea that men were just naturally bad people. Even though white men are responsible for the vast majority of this, disproportionately so, even though black men are statistically the safest men to be around kids. To a point where white women be telling their kids on TikTok, the white women be telling people on TikTok, yeah, I tell my kids if they get lost, go find a big black man. So while white girls are confusing the fuck out of us because they fetishize us and we've never received unconditional love, so we don't even know what the shit really looks like. So white girls fetishizing us looks like love. Our white teachers telling us, Oh, I wish I could do something. I wish there was something I could do. That's inappropriate. So white women are doing the whole weaponized niceness thing, being extra, extra sweet to all the black boys in their class, right? And now all of a sudden teachers are getting caught on social media, right? Being exposed for having sex with little black boys, which is statutory rape. And it's a pattern. So at home, that's how little black boys get talked to on average, right? Whether it's on the low end of the spectrum of emotional abuse or it's high on the spectrum of abuse, right? On the high end of the spectrum of abuse, on average, that's what we get. To a point where Rochelle on Everybody Hates Chris, we had to sit and watch y'all laugh at that shit while we was sitting inside of our own minds, trapped, watching y'all treat it like entertainment. Our traumatic ass backstories. Y'all just treating that shit like entertainment. When I laugh at my own pain or I make jokes about situations I've been in, that's gallows humor. But when you treat it like entertainment and you laugh at it, that ain't gallows humor. That's just you being inconsiderate as fuck, one way or the other. But we had to watch that. We had to treat it like entertainment while whole time we processing it like, I mean, yeah, this shit is kind of funny, but like, wow, seeing my mother with a different face definitely puts it into perspective for me. Seeing people defend Rochelle's behavior puts this into perspective for me. Why does this all sound familiar? Got Thick Brick Empress saying sounds all too familiar. And she's a black woman. So imagine if it sounds familiar to her, imagine how similar our experiences are. But the only time I see on social media, right? The only time I really see on average women complaining about the shit that mothers be doing is when they end up in a relationship with that mother's son. Most of the time, y'all just be complaining, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, because most of the time that's what it seems like. And again, that's just my anecdotal experience. I'm not saying that in general that's just what the case is, right? But I am entitled to my opinion, right, based off of my anecdotal experience. There's no statistical data on y'all social media posts like that. And if there is, point me in the direction. But basically, my point is this: on average, when I see women complaining about mothers, it's usually boy moms. That's where their complaints begin and end, or how their own mothers were terrible people. But it's like, even still, I'll see people hopping in the comments like, black women try their best and they're up against so much and so many different things that, you need to give her grace. It don't matter who you are. If your shit go viral, it's going to be a few hundred, maybe a few thousand people in the comments, especially if you're a little bit too angry, and especially if you're a man. It's going to be way too many people in the comments telling you that you should give your mother more grace. Nobody even knows what that woman did to you, but they'll still tell you that you need to give her more grace because in their mind, the myth of the morally superior matriarchy is absolute. It's not a myth, it's a real thing. So it don't matter what happened to you. It don't matter what women did to you. You just got to give them more grace. It don't matter how afraid you are in the presence of other women. You just got to give those other women more grace, sis. You got to be for the girls. I guess you're just not for the girls. As a black man, you still have privilege. You don't have to worry about going out at night. You do realize that buck breaking is a term that was designed to describe the practice of raping black men. Are y'all out of y'all minds? Every single man I have ever met, black or otherwise, he either is afraid to go out at night, whether because of sexual assault or getting robbed or something, or he's dumb. There's no in between. Either I'm dealing with a street rat, like a crash dummy type nigga who has terrible self preservation skills, or he's afraid and he's just been masking. And basically, as black men, we get penalized heavily because the women who was around us growing up robbed us of that comfort of just saying, "Yeah, I'm afraid to go out at night." Nigga, you dumb? Shit, I'm handsome. I know I'm cute. I know it's somebody out here that's gonna want to fuck with me. And then when we say that, immediately they double down on the ignorance and they go, well, who are you afraid of getting assaulted by? Everybody. What you mean? Why? Because in their minds, nowhere in their fucking brain meets is there the possibility that someone's grandmother told that man, so what? You're not special. Everybody gets raped. Nowhere in your minds do you think a black woman could say that to a black child. Nowhere in your fucking minds do you think that. So we got to exist in this world with no agency whatsoever, right? Because, like, how many homeless shelters don't take men at all and don't have a vetting process, don't have security, don't have anything that could make the shit more effective so that there could be more co ed homeless shelters or homeless shelters for men only that actually have the resources? Again, that's not just systemic racism, that's also systemic misandry. Everything can be systemic if there are enough people in a place of power. The moment you have one man in a position of power, he can systemically make sure, right, that he's using that system systemically to oppress a specific group of people to make sure they are deprived of resources. So just like misogyny, right, can be systemically impacting people, misandry can be systemically impacting people. And the statistical data on violence against women does not matter in a situation where a little boy is being assaulted or being told, so what? You're not special. Everybody gets raped. But people don't like that. They don't like understanding that this statistical data doesn't do anything to teach people how to protect themselves. All it does is overload your system, especially if you're a person who's not already academically experienced. It might make you feel less alone in the moment, but if everybody's just quoting statistics to try to silence each other, to make everybody feel like shit, using you consistently using dehumanizing and harmful generalizations to try to get their point across because they don't give a fuck how the other side feels, there will always be situations in which men, women, and non binary people get into positions of power and start fucking with people who are on the other side, irresponsibly so. But in your mind, you're a good person. In your mind, you're not part of the problem. You're a pioneer. You're leading the charge. No, you're just part of the problem. It's just a bunch of adults with teenage brains trying their absolute best and their absolute worst at the same time and alternating between the two. But the reality is, the vast majority of adults in the US, right, both the largest demographic of adults and the second largest in terms of education, they literally do not have the cognitive ability to handle these situations and this information responsibly. That's why the world is what it is right now. Because everybody want to talk, everybody want to be the one who's getting famous and going viral and for saying the thing, but they're not willing to do the right thing the first time around. Everybody just wants to rant carelessly. That's why I title my stuff Concerned Ramblings, right? And when you go on my YouTube page, the playlist is literally called Concerned Ramblings because in the title, I am taking accountability for the fact that number one, I'm rambling. Number two, it's because I'm concerned, right? So I'm articulating to the audience, this is the foundation of this rambling. I'm not just talking out the side of my neck. I'm not just saying stuff because it's convenient. I'm talking because I care, because I want young men to wake up and you feel me, to stop crossing the fucking street all the time out of embarrassment and shame. You know how shameful it feels to be a grown man walking with your fucking friends, but because you know you're just a little bit too tall and any woman could be afraid, and I don't want to make nobody afraid. You get this goofy ass fucked up feeling in the pit of your stomach where now you're afraid and you're ashamed because you feel like a rapist even though you haven't done anything. People don't think about that, right? They just assume that, oh no, you're just supposed to feel, you're just supposed to understand. How? If black boys are statistically one of the most likely demographics to be purposefully left behind in education as early as pre-K, and our own family members are telling us to shut the fuck up before we give you something to cry about, nobody can. So what? You're not special. Everybody gets raped. How? How am I supposed to know that I'm supposed to trust what some random girl on the internet said in my comment section when she was being passive aggressive? How am I supposed to know that you're a good person when you're calling everybody a pick me piece of shit? How am I supposed to know that you're the person I'm supposed to trust, that you're the woman I'm supposed to be taking advice from, when you're the same person that said, I don't think anybody would ever understand what it's like to be so hated, right? That someone would burn something down just to keep you from getting a seat at the table. I don't believe any man would ever understand that. As a black woman, how am I supposed to know you got my back when you had described my experience and then said, as a black woman with a PhD, Dr. Raquel Martin, she said this shit, and I'm paraphrasing. So let me be responsible and accountable. I'm paraphrasing. But how am I supposed to know that Dr. Raquel Martin sees me and has the ability to actually be there for me or anything along those lines? Right, as not as a, oh, you got to do emotional labor for me specifically because you have a PhD. But how do I know she's a trustworthy source of information? How do I know I should actually be taking what she says to heart when she described my experience as an autistic black man and then flat out said, I don't believe any man would ever understand that? That means you're so far disconnected from the experiences of black boys and black men that in the moment, you can't even believe that we exist. You don't even believe that I'm real. You don't believe that I exist. I don't exist in your mind. You don't take my existence into consideration on a daily basis when you live your life. But because of who I am, I take black women in general into consideration when I live my life to a point where I couldn't even go to parties when I was a teenager and just enjoy myself. I got a reputation from literally protecting drunk women at parties. Do you know how fucked up and bittersweet it is to be the ugly boy? You feel what I'm saying? When I was growing up, to be the boy who was too nerdy, to be told that I was too nice on some Tupac, you would think, oh, everybody, it clap, that never happened, but let's clap it up for his performance. Literally being told I was too nice, being told, yeah, like you just be asking too many questions and trying to see if it's okay. Like you really need to just, like sometimes you just need to grab me up, like, whatever, whatever. But being told that in a way to where it's not, oh, it just works for this specific girl, right? Like girls just like it more when boys are more aggressive. You feel what I'm saying? Like you asking all these questions, you doing all of this talking, like we like action. Like like smack me on my ass. Like, yeah, I'm a get mad and act like I don't like it, but like you supposed to, you feel me? Like you supposed to spit game. You supposed to, say something clever, to make me smile. Like being told by women my age and women slightly older than me all throughout my middle school and high school years, right? Up until the point where I got to college. Girls and women literally telling me that I needed to do that type shit. And then I do it to the wrong fucking person, right? Let me do it to the wrong fucking person and I'm fucked. Do you have any idea how lucky I am that I didn't take that shit to heart completely? That something inside of me was like, I don't know. I read a lot of National Geographic and I watched a lot of Sesame Street and I watched a lot of Mr. Rogers and I watched a lot of Star Trek when I was a kid and Star Trek covered a lot of different, themes. I watched a lot of different old movies and something is telling me that that's not right. Maybe if I try somebody else with being myself, maybe it'll work. I'm so fucking lucky that when I was at a point where I was actually internalizing that information, that I did not sexually assault somebody. Do you have any idea how painful it is to look back on my life to know that I was this close? That if I would have came across somebody, right place, right time, I would have been another fucking horror story. I would have been somebody else's horror story. Somebody would have been telling stories about how, in high school, Blicky did this or Dominic did whatever, whatever. But again, nobody would give a fuck. Why? Because nobody would even give a fuck specifically to listen to me talk long enough to find out that I wasn't even accountable. How the fuck can you hold an actual child? And again, stop saying that, oh, you too grown for that. You too grown for that. No, the fuck I wasn't. I was 14 years old being abused by every single woman in my family that I loved and trusted. Tell me, how the fuck are black men supposed to know? How are we supposed to know that you're the woman we're supposed to be taking advice from, that you're the right woman, and that what you said this time, even though you're being mean as fuck, just like my mother, my aunts, you feel me, my cousins, and all my grandmother, how all of these women in my family were mean as fuck when they was abusing me, then flipping it and saying, oh yes, black love, and black excellence, and educated, as long as you're in school or working, you don't have to worry about being homeless. Well, that was a fucking lie. How are we supposed to know? The human mind can't operate off of information it has not effectively assimilated. We're sabotaged in the education system as early as pre-K. But somehow, at the end of it all, after black men got, you feel me, buck broken over and over again all throughout history, where they have terms specifically about raping black men, after us suffering from, the effects of systemic racism, getting to a point where black men die so often because of police brutality, because of over policing, because of, you feel what I'm saying, wrongful convictions, and the system being so backed up that they can't even get to an accurate statistic of how many black people there actually are who get wrongfully convicted. The only thing they can do is say, yeah, out of all the people that get wrongfully convicted for 24, 25 or more years, over 68% of them are black. Out of all the people that get wrongfully imprisoned for 40 or more years, over 80% of them are black. That's what we got. Being flat out told that most of the people that get wrongfully convicted are black. And it's for the crimes that racist people are always trying to pin on black people. Like, oh, the murders and the this and the that. It's not murder, jackass. It's non-negligent manslaughter specifically. But again, nobody cares. Because again, on social media right now, the popular thing is to flat out tell black men, not even flat out tell black men, to tell black men as indirectly as you can, your thoughts, your feelings, your traumatic experiences, and your traumatic responses are literally non-existent and or completely unimportant in comparison to even a single woman being afraid of you. None of what you went through matters. It does not matter. Period. Oh, that's not what we're saying. That's not what we're bullshit. Y'all are flat out treating black men, right, as indirectly as you can. Y'all are flat out treating us, right, as though we are not important enough to be separated from the white and Latino men who are the primary perpetuators of this type of violence towards women and against people in general. We're not important enough for you to filter your thoughts and feelings through intersectional feminism to make sure you're specific when you say, oh, the patriarchy. No, the white male patriarchy. Or if anything, when people say that, y'all will come up, well, black men, and rich black men, they date white women. If you see it, what the fuck does that have to do with me getting raped? And my grandmother telling me, so what? You're not special, everybody gets raped. What the fuck does those two things have to say to each other? And would you say that to a person who got raped if they came to you and they was talking to you about your thoughts, about their thoughts and feelings? Of course not. You just did. You just looked me in my shits as I was talking on this camera and your brain generated it. Don't lie to me. That's exactly where you was going with it. Everything that you would say about statistical data. Oh, if your neighbor's house was on fire, would you say, "Oh, but my house is right here. Your house isn't on fire. Your neighbor's house is on fire. Why are you asking for the firemen?" That's a false equivalency because it implies that there's nothing about rape culture that specifically targets black men. Yet and still, buck breaking. Y'all act like it doesn't exist anymore. It's not real. It never happened. It's in the past. It's in the past. Y'all are treating black men in general as if they have the same agency as white men, which is baffling to me because all it takes is 25 different people to film a few thousand videos over the course of the year, right? For y'all to just give up on us and to start treating us like we're the enemy and to start using dehumanizing and harmful generalizations against men, saying, "Oh, men are trash, men are worthless." And if you don't understand, I don't mean all, you're one of the men we're talking about. That's sophistry. That doesn't even make any real fucking sense. Because again, my question to you is this: how are we supposed to know that? If I walked in with peanut butter cookies, right, and tried to give them to Miss Blick, and she said, "Nah, peanut butter's trash." Nobody's gonna come the next day with peanut butter cookies again and say, here you go. Bro, I told you yesterday peanut butter cookies were trash. Yeah, but like you didn't mean all peanut butter cookies. Those peanut butter cookies was made with Jif peanut butter. These peanut butter cookies are made with Skippy. So, I just automatically knew. No, everything about the English language up to this point convinces you that when somebody makes generalizations like that, they should be addressed accordingly. If I said, women, black women is always this, that, and a third, or women are always blah, blah, blah. Y'all don't automatically assume I don't mean all women. And it's not just because of the impact misogyny has had on society. It's because y'all decided that you are so important, right? Your arrogance spoke for you, and your narcissism spoke for you, which is wrapped up in the arrogance, specifically vulnerable narcissistic traits. You just up and decided that y'all were so victimized that you were allowed to victimize other people, and that now I'm going to trade places with my executioner. I'm going to be the bad guy. I'm in my villain arc. Congratulations, you're a real life bad person. You're not a villain, as in, oh, yes, I'm in my villain arc, and, Cruella de Vil, and, I'm above it all, and that's above me now, and, men are so sassy. And, nah, it's all the same thing. Hatred is hatred, evil is evil, immorality is immorality. How many times do people with degrees and you feel me, PhDs got to tell y'all that you can't shame somebody into being a better person before y'all take the shit into consideration? Because I guarantee you, the same people that be screaming at their kids, right? The same people who be saying, "Well, I bust you in your fucking head to the white meat show. I brought you in this world. I could take you out of it." The same people who be making sure that little boys grow up as victims of psychological warfare, then justifying it. Ain't nobody gonna run my house. The same people who be commenting on therapist videos and psychologists videos, right? These are the people that be masquerading as y'all fans later on. So every content creator who sees this, every content consumer who sees this, keep in mind, this is the pattern of behavior that's underlying all of this shit. People don't care. They're not really good people. They're not really benevolent. They want revenge and they will get it on anybody, even if it's somebody who isn't even part of the problem. They will go out of their way to justify their rage, their disgust, their disdain, no matter what. The same way you got some black people that'll just spaz the fuck out of, like, they'll just spaz on white people for no damn reason. Why the fuck is you looking at me? I mean, you're right in front of me. I looked at this person, I looked at that person. Yeah, but you was looking at me, da 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 da. And in their mind, right, they're correct. I didn't seen this shit happen. I know it seems crazy that a black man, is talking about how, but I didn't seen the shit where I had somebody with me who was white. right? And he just so happens to make eye contact with a black person. And he's already in the conversation we're having, he's already moved on. We're already somewhere else. We're literally walking the fuck away. But because I got my head on a swivel, right? Now I catch, these people over here, something about some, the fuck is he looking at? Da, 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 da. Meanwhile, I saw the way he looked. He looked at them the same way he looked at everybody. No different. We just looking around. But because he white, they spaz on his ass. And then they find out he's with me. Now all of a sudden, oh, because some people don't have the cognitive ability to understand the difference between reality and whatever they got going on in their head. In their minds, right? Your ethnicity, your race, your gender, etc., is what determines how they will react to you. So two people could say and do the exact same shit, but because they're a different ethnicity, they're a different race, they're a different gender, now all of a sudden it's a problem. Nah, bruh. That's not intersectional feminism. That's not egalitarianism. And I'm tired of people bullshitting on social media as if it is. Overall, my main point is yes, we got sexual assault statistics, but are you actually teaching anybody how to protect themselves? Are you going to teach young men how to react to women who are weaker than them sexually assaulting them? How to cope with that? How to not get to a point where you're violently, murderously angry towards, you feel me, women when you see them say certain stuff on social media that reminds you of the same stuff that the women who abused you said? No, y'all aren't teaching us how to do any of that. Y'all are just telling us what to do and hurting us when we don't do it. Congratulations. Y'all are treating us no differently than the women who raised us. That's what the fuck black boys get. And here's the thing. Y'all do realize that the adultification of black boys primarily comes from the people who raised us, right? Like the first form of adultification we get comes from people around us telling us we too fucking grown for that. You too old to be this, that, and the third. You too old to be doing all that damn crime. Basically telling us that we're literally too old to be making certain types of mistakes, knowing damn well they didn't even teach us how to deal with it. All they did was tell us what to do and hurt us when we didn't do it. And it's still happening because my little brother and sister was raised in a completely different household, in a completely different generation. Yet and still, my brother got punched. My sister didn't. And my sister had to watch that happen. You can claim, oh, that's misogyny. That's the patriarchy. The misogyny and patriarchy doesn't exist in the mind of a child. No matter how much you try to paint it as misogyny or the patriarchy, right? It's just a bad woman doing bad things. Not everybody is this fucking mastermind, but y'all keep trying to pin everything on misogyny, everything on narcissism, everything on this, everything on that, because y'all learned a fucking buzzword. And now, because you've been a victim this many times in your life, or because it happens to this demographic more, it happens to women more, or it happens to black people more, you feel like now you have free agency to be irresponsible with the way you process this information, knowing damn well the majority of the adult population in the US has reading and comprehension at or below the sixth grade level. The second demographic at or below the eighth grade level. Most people literally don't have the cognitive ability, let alone the education to know better and to do better. But everybody thinks they're the one. I'm the one. Meanwhile, I'm doing my concerned ramblings, trying to be as responsible as I can with the information I'm talking about, constantly leaving the door open, saying, I might be wrong, I might be wrong, I could be wrong. You feel what I'm saying? Putting me in a position where I got to live my whole life under a microscope. I can't just be a person anymore. Every time I go out, I got to make sure I'm walking a certain way and I'm talking a certain way. And I got to make sure, oh, if I'm walking behind a woman, let me talk extra loud so that they know I'm behind them and they know I'm not trying to hide behind them. I'm not trying to sneak up on them. To some people, that seems just like, oh, that's just basic. That's just the bare minimum. That's the bare. Everything is the bare minimum with you motherfuckers. But again, how are black men, black and brown men supposed to know this? How are we supposed to know that we don't have to feel ashamed? Why? Because you said it? The same people who've been calling us worthless and then telling us we're worthless because we don't know that you don't mean all men are worthless. The same way racist people be saying racist shit is just a joke. It's not that serious. It's just a word. Or, obviously I didn't mean all black people. Like obviously I didn't mean all black people, guys. Like relax and calm down. Not everything is about race. It was just a joke. Y'all look the exact same way and it processes the exact same way and it sounds the exact same way as when y'all are finally getting around to saying, well, I didn't mean all men. That's obvious. It should be obvious. And if you don't know that, you're one of the men we're talking about. Meanwhile, you're talking to a man who got raped by multiple women in his family or some shit. Not specifically talking about me, but like I'm one of the lucky ones who only had to deal with that type of shit one time, specifically when it came to my family. I've been sexually assaulted by multiple black women in my life. Am I allowed to smack the shit out of them? Am I allowed to scream and beat them the fuck up? No. I could be giving this speech right now in a fucking TED Talk stadium, right? I could be at a TED Talk event right now. Let me leave this stage and get groped by a woman backstage. And then the fight breaks out. I'm me. Full reaction, my PTSD, full blast. I'm full blown fight or flight, just reacting, not even being able to control my anger, not being able to control my response. And I'm hem. I run in her mouth and it spills out on stage. Do you really think anybody's gonna give a fuck when I say, oh, she sexually assaulted me? No. It's gonna be a millions of people, maybe not millions, depending on how viral the content goes. It's going to be a few thousand, maybe 10,000, maybe a few 100,000 people who collectively decide, right, to post content, like comment on content, or repost content that's saying, "Oh, he only did that because he been itching to hit women." You can tell he's just been itching to put his hands on a woman. Stay far away from him. I literally can get raped, sexually assaulted, however you want to put it, and somebody will still find a way to say, "I only put my hands on this woman because I like dick in my mouth." He's gay or he been itching to hurt a woman. He look at the way he got so mad or how he raised his. You just know he hits women. This is why men are so silent, and that's why the silence has reached such a high degree to where now the myth of the morally superior matriarchy is just now that's just a general belief that people have. And that if you challenge the myth of the morally superior matriarchy, yeah, you're one of the men we're talking about. Yet you're why we choose the bear over the man. Congratulations. Y'all just helped white people compare black and brown men to animals, black and brown boys to animals. And again, if over 54% of the adult population is at sixth grade reading and comprehension, probably lower than that, then riddle me this, Batman. How the fuck do you expect this population to generalize black men and boys responsibly? They can't, and they won't. You know what's going to happen? Black men and boys are going to get the shittiest end of the stick before anybody else. And because we have least agency, we're going to be everybody's favorite, you feel me, target again. And look around. Look at how many people on the I see racist page, you feel me? I hate racists and, exposing racists, all these different social media pages across different social media websites where their whole ball game is publicly talking about white people who got caught doing racist stuff recently. Post after post after post after post about white women raping their students. But it's cool because men are trash and if these little boys don't understand, they're the men we're talking about. 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds who got social media. But because of the adultification of black and brown boys coming straight from our own fucking communities, y'all have decided that we're too old. We're always too old. And as grown men, there's no experiences we could have had as children that warped and twisted us into what we are today. And even when y'all talk about our mental health issues, y'all always get real subtle about victim blaming. Y'all never stop victim blaming us. Y'all never stop telling us that it's our fault that we are the way that we are now. Because, black women have been telling y'all, we've been telling y'all, we've been telling y'all. Yeah. So what? You know how many times my grandmother told me she loved me before and after she said that shit? You know how many times my mother told me she loved me? Fuck you. In the middle of my damn live stream. Well, it's not really fuck them. It's fuck me, past me, because I forgot to put my shit on vibrate. But yeah, like, you know how many, like, you know how crazy it is to be a mama's boy because you're being abused by the women in your family, right? And your own mother. And you hear your mother say, "Oh, I love you, this is that and the third. You're my only child, blah, blah, blah. As long as you're working or in school, you never have to worry about being homeless, so on and so forth." And now that person don't remember nothing they did. I don't remember doing that, or that never happened. Now all of a sudden you too grown for that. You too old for that. Then to realize it was a lie to go to therapy, not just because, oh, I'm mad now and well, I hate women. Nah, going to therapy and realizing that's a lie. People who love you don't treat you that way. It is safe for you to say and internalize the idea that your mother did not love you. That was not unconditional love. Me, the professional, I'm telling you that was not unconditional love. You do not have to look past her mistakes. You do not have to give her grace. The only thing you need to worry about is healing. That's it. If you don't ever want to talk to this woman again, if you don't, you feel me, if you want to cut her off, if you don't want to give any excuses or grace or whatever, cool. That's 100% reasonable. You don't have to forgive somebody just because bad things happened to them when they was a kid or some shit like that, right? Not saying that something bad happened to her specifically, but just in general, you don't have to accept other people's poor behavior just because some bad shit happened to them. Then to come out into the world as an adult and see everybody acting like they're allowed to hurt people just because bad shit happened to them. Yeah, I know hurt people, but damn, when is it going to be enough? I don't even be going out. I don't talk to women in public at all. I don't approach women in public at all. Why? Because women on social media, more than enough of them said, we don't want to be approached in public at all. Now I got to grapple between that and the fact that it's also damn near the same amount of women saying men aren't men anymore. They used to, like, damn, y'all don't even come up to us in public, blah, blah, blah. Niggas are so scary. Like, you're not even gonna ask me on a date, whatever, whatever. Like rejection is a part of that. Y'all just need to get over that. So self-centered, so head up their own asses that not once are they considering the existences of the women who flat out said, or the existence of the women who flat out said, we don't want to be approached in public at all. Period, point blank. So now some men are being programmed by women who are flat out telling them, approach me in public. Why are men so scary? Y'all are so scared. Like, y'all are so cowardly. Like, y'all just need to deal with the rejection. So then some men who are for the first time interacting with women on social media in a macro scale, right? On a grand scale, they go out into the world thinking, oh, I'm supposed to be more aggressive. Like I said earlier, girls telling me, yeah, you ask too many questions and you trying to, figure it out. Like, you need to, grab a bitch by the throat, like smack me on my ass. Yeah, I'm gonna cuss you out and act like I'm mad, but you supposed to say something clever or funny. Like, you supposed to have game and make me laugh. Like, you're not you're not understanding the assignment. What happens when we get programmed like that? Nobody on the other side takes accountability for that type of programming. It's just our fault. You're just a bad man because you listened to the wrong woman and you were led astray. Oh, those women had internalized misogyny. They couldn't have possibly just been narcissistic people because everything is always somebody else's fault. It's never just the person who did the bad thing. My mother is not just a bad mother. I got to give her grace and some more shit. Like, damn. And it's everywhere. Now, my closing statement for this particular part of the conversation is I understand that not everybody's going to say the same shit. I understand that just like I said earlier, it's a certain amount of people on this planet who think I'm ugly, a certain amount of people on this planet who think I'm handsome or cute or perfect. I should probably just focus on the people who think I'm perfect or think I'm handsome, whatever. I should focus on the people that give me positive reinforcement. But I don't see y'all anywhere. Every time I think somebody gonna give me some damn positive reinforcement, it's fucking Roma Army, and then I see a clip of her calling women whores and prostitutes and shit on some mean girl shit, on some bully shit. Like, oh, well, technically you're a female, so I'm calling you females. You're a prostitute, technically, so I'm calling you a prostitute. Cause fuck everybody's feelings, right? But the fact that I'm even talking about this and complaining about it, automatically I'm a misogynist. I probably beat bitches and all of this other stuff. Like, bruh, good natured, you feel me, niggas who ain't did shit wrong, who really be trying to do the right thing the first time around. We're invisible. We are the invisible male demographic. The men and boys who were abused only by women or mostly by women who have no agency because yeah, you can't the black woman, no, you no. You can't criticize that. Mothers, you no, you're a man, you can't do that, you can't talk about mothers. And if you do, you got to have something that's so shock value, so impactful that it just overrides everybody else's narcissistic responses, everybody else's contrarianistic knee-jerk responses. We are the invisible male demographic, not the damn incels. Mean motherfuckers on the internet just decided to call everybody who's part of the invisible male demographic incels because a few dumbass incels labeled themselves as the invisible male demographic. Y'all don't listen to good men when we talk. Y'all don't listen to us. Y'all don't empathize with us. Y'all hyper focus on all of the worst people you have ever met and then go, yeah, that's everybody. Y'all focus on the things that white men are primarily the perpetuators of and go, yeah, that's everybody. My existence is literally not important enough. Yeah, your house is not on fire. Your neighbor's house is on fire. My house, I'm in a burning building too. The only difference is there are more confirmed dead bodies coming out of your house than ours. Why? Because we're not talking about it. That's literally where the whole statistical disproportionate shit comes from. How many experts have to tell y'all over and over again that the statistics are heavily skewed because men don't talk about being victimized, and they're least likely to talk about being victimized when the perpetrator is a woman. Nobody cares about that. Not a single person. And I don't literally mean not a single person, but again, you see where I'm going with this? How my anecdotal experiences as a man don't mean nothing, and I can't say not a single person, but everybody else on the other side of the whole, knee jerk contrarianistic, you're just, if you don't agree with me, you're also the man that you probably beat bitches and blah blah blah. That whole narcissistic, irresponsible side of social media, the grifters, the bullshitters, the faux intellectuals, the anti-intellectuals, over 54% of the adult population, right? The largest and second largest demographic of adults in the US being at or below sixth grade reading and comprehension and eighth grade reading and comprehension, respectively. How, again, teachers are saying kids in the eighth grade are reading at the sixth grade level and below. So, whatever you think adults are at now is two grades lower than that or four grades lower than that. You actually think that y'all are all going to handle this responsibly? Come on, that's arrogance, that's delusion, that's narcissism. That's not the real deal. Bottom line is, if we are going to address this issue, if we are going to tackle rape culture, we need to get to a point where we are doing things the right way the first time around. Stop saying, oh yeah, bitches ain't shit and blah. Shut the fuck up. Just tell the world the truth about the woman who cheated on you and made you look fucking stupid. Tell the truth, my dude. Like, damn. Just be honest. Say that your feelings is hurt and you still fucked up. Tell the world the truth, right? That one of your aunts raped you. So the fuck what if don't nobody have my back? Suck my dick. You think I need your support now? I live in a house that's worth damn near $250,000. You see the Switch 2. I got every fucking game system in this bitch. PlayStation 2, GameCube, Wii U, a Wii, two PS3s, a PS4, a PS5, a Nintendo 360. My fucking PC rig is like 4 or 5 bands retail price. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just the money talk. And I mentioned it first because that's the shit that I care about the least in terms of having possessions. The reason why I talked about the game systems though is because that shit is close to my heart. I only have this because I got certain people in my circle who we engage in group economics. We put all of our shit together and we was like, hey, if you got it, I got it. Now I'm living with people that I love, living with people that I trust. I have so many material things specifically because I am loved, because I am trustworthy, because the people around me have seen me at my worst and they know, yeah, this nigga not fucking no kids. He not on that type of time. He not over here with the misogynist and he not finna be, yeah, bitches ain't shit and yeah, these black women, and but white women, you know what I'm saying, and Hispanic girls and yeah, he not on that type of time. They see me when you feel me, I'm screaming about some shit. But the shit that I'm screaming about is some shit that makes some damn sense. And even when I'm raising my voice or I'm screaming, I'm still vocalizing like actual specific things. I'm not just calling people stupid or some crazy shit like that. I'm saying, bro, you got me fucked up. This was highly irresponsible. Why would you put yourself in a position like that to even do something to where you could fuck my shit up? Like that's like going having a joyride in somebody's car knowing you don't have a license and you gonna fuck my shit up? Yeah, if I'm raising my voice, I'm upset. Yeah, my anger is there. Maybe I could be a little better with my anger, but the bottom line is the people who are around me know that that's not me. I am not my anger. I'm not a person with anger issues. I'm a man who's capable of getting enraged when somebody really does some shit that really fucks my situation up, fucks my money up, or like, some supreme type of disrespect. Not just somebody saying something I ain't like, yeah, yo ugly. Oh yeah, what the fuck do you got on? Yeah, what the fuck is those? Fuck all of that. Something that's genuinely immoral, unethical, like real life somebody trying to bully me. You feel what I'm saying? Like a grown ass man trying to bully another grown ass man. And I pop off like, nigga, you better. And now I'm cussing somebody smooth the fuck out. Or a grown woman trying to bully me just because she's a woman and she know I can't, fight her for getting up in my face and screaming at me and mushing me in my face and all of that shit. And y'all, the craziest part about that though is that it happens very often. Like that shit happens often. But for some strange reason, people who are scared to do that think they are the rule. They don't realize they're the exception. People who don't want to mush niggas in the face and do all of that disrespectful shit over small misunderstandings or just because they in a bad mood, y'all are the minority. Y'all are the exception, not the rule. So when you see men getting amped up in public, amped in public and shit, y'all gotta realize, like a lot of times, what you're seeing is a person who finally stopped being careful. Somebody mushed that man in the face or cussed that man out, said all type of crazy shit, and because he's been abused by women his whole life, right? When it was his mother or his aunt or his grandmother, the women who was abusing him effectively convinced him, yeah, you can't be mad. It's still your mother, it's still your grandmother. You better not put your hands on a woman, no matter what they did to that boy. But you're not his mother. You're the girl that he was trying to get to be his girlfriend or his wife, but you're not his mother, which means you're not on this pedestal where now he feels like because of his indoctrination, he has to be super, super careful. So now all of the trauma he experienced at the hands of other women, it becomes your problem. And that's exactly what the fuck women be doing on average, in my experience. It's like, yeah, I went through some shit with a bunch of other men. Now you got to deal with that. And I get it. Again, I empathize. Where some shit that happened to you enough times in your life, it leaves a scar. But guess what? The pain you feel doesn't justify the pain you cause. That's what women been telling me my whole life. So if that's the case for everybody. If we want an egalitarian society, we got to get to a point where we understand the pain you feel doesn't justify the pain you cause. You want somebody to take you seriously, maybe stop verbally abusing everybody who doesn't get it. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to teach you anything. Then what are you here for? Just to complain and be mean to people who don't already get it? Congratulations. Now every licensed professional got to make another video talking about how, yeah, shaming people into change doesn't really work. All it does is make people afraid of being ashamed, and they might do what you want, but it'll be temporary. When they feel powerful again, when they feel like they don't have to be careful, they'll go back to their old ways. But in closing, because I had a couple of other points that I wanted to make. I said in closing before, but in closing for this particular point, the main thing I want is for men, women, and non-binary people to stop making up excuses to bully each other. Stop acting like what you're doing isn't bullying. Stop acting like it's different and it's not verbal abuse or psychological warfare just because you personally feel like your motives are more righteous. Because you're always going to hit somebody that doesn't deserve it. Eventually, you're going to hurt somebody. And it's going to be somebody who didn't deserve that. It's going to be a man who got raped by multiple women. And you behaving that way is what makes him believe in the manosphere. You behaving that way is what makes him believe in the red pill bullshit. If you don't have the academic or professional experience in the behavioral sciences and communication, you probably shouldn't be making content unless you are one of those people who is going to take accountability if some shit that you said fell flat. If some shit that you said turned out to be objectively false. If Dr. Max Butterfield makes a video on some shit that I said, I'm gonna just have to take that shit on the chin and be like, yeah, Dr. Max Butterfield corrected me. It is what it is. If he says something and I disagree, right? Maybe he says, it's my opinion, my professional opinion that this, that, and the third. You can interpret this differently. Okay, then I could say, all right, I don't fully agree with you on that. I'm looking at the numbers and I don't fully agree, but I agree I should have handled this conversation more responsibly. Even though I already told motherfuckers this is concerned ramblings, it could still be somehow, some way, because of me speaking about it passionately, being an autistic person who's not trying to be passive aggressive. I'm literally talking from the heart. I have academic experience in the behavioral sciences. I've been in therapy. So it's like, if something I said really had a huge negative impact or something like that, something I said could be used to harm people or something, cool. Then that's just something I got to take accountability for. But trying your absolute best to do it the right way the first time around, everybody needs to be on that type of time. Stop coming up with excuses as to why you treat people like shit or why you terrorize men or women or why you're in your villain era, your villain arc. You sound corny as fuck. Shut the fuck up. You straight up sound like bitches for real. Like y'all just sound soft. I sound like little ass fucking kids who like watched Twilight and now you're in the fucking corner with your collar up like Bella. That's what the fuck y'all sound like. Every time I see a status with some goofy motherfucker talking about I'm in my villain arc. That's what y'all sound like. Y'all sound like goofy ass Edward Cullen impersonators like Bella, you don't understand. The darkness in my soul. Ah, if I even have one. That's what y'all fucking sound like. Y'all sound so lame. Yeah, I'm a proud misogynist. I'm a proud misandrist. You're a proud fucking cornball, is what the fuck you are. Now, to my next point. Y'all saying this shit, trying to change the definitions and the defining parameters of calling people trash, calling people worthless, calling people gold diggers, calling people prostitutes, calling people whores, calling people cowards, all of that shit. It's not just words, period. We all need to take accountability and be more responsibility for the shit that we say. Because I'll give y'all an example. Y'all know how that white dude been going around calling people niggers on camera, but then, flashing his gun like, yeah, do something, right? It's just words. It's just words. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you in a court of law. Oh, but I thought it was just words. No, jackass. If it was just words, then the Miranda rights would be yes, you have the right to remain silent. But you don't have to because nothing you say can actually be used against you in a court of law because, words are just words. They have no meaning or anything behind them. No, jackass. If I tell someone I'm going to assault you, you have every right to assume I'm telling the truth. If I tell somebody, yeah, your body, my rules, you have every right to assume that I'm a rapist, period. So if you call someone a nigger while you're flashing your gun and that, yeah, yeah, go ahead, do something, do something. Everybody has every right to assume that you are an evil person. It's not just words. And no matter how many times this man says, it's just a word, it's just a word, I want you to kill me over a word. Yeah, let me prove my point. One black person killing one white person over words is not going to prove your fucking point because he's been alive this entire time. How many people then cussed him out, but not a single person killed him? That means you got all of these examples of you being wrong about black people, but you're still fishing because you're desperate. There's something broken inside of his fucking head that is so illogical, so cognitively fucking devoid, right? Just void of all cognitive superiority and effectiveness in any way, shape, or form. All of that superiority that he thinks he has. All of that intellectual greatness that has completely missed him, that he just thinks, yes, yes, and I'm proving my point and I'm so clever. See, it makes no sense whatsoever for numerous reasons outside of that. Like, what hold on, what person with critical thinking skills, emotional intelligence, empathy, social calibration, self-awareness, and kindness goes up to people, uses a slur that they know is going to make that person upset, and then flashes a gun in that person at that person to be like, yeah, do something about it? What logical person, what good-natured individual, and y'all listen to this shit? So number one, the shit's not words. But think about that. It's people, right? Take his mentality and apply that. Instead of being that way towards black people, let's see how many content creators you can find that act that way towards women, that act that way towards men, and see how quickly your worldview falls the fuck apart. At least when you're being honest, when you're being transparent with yourself. In closing, I'll cover quite a few topics. I've been streaming for a little over 2 hours. I'll probably stream later tonight because me and the homies been playing Lethal Company and Content Warning and Repo and all of that, and I've been having a good time. Stop calling, men trash and comparing them to animals, because comparing black men to animals by proxy is not a good look. For the last 50 plus years, we've been programmed to make sure that we react strongly to people comparing us to animals. And now all of a sudden it's not racist anymore because, black women are doing it too. And, the context of it is it's not racist. How do you know? How do you know white people aren't being racist when they think about the shit a certain way? You're not a damn mind reader, but you're arrogant as fuck. So you think that your projections mean more than the real life impact of racist white people comparing all men to animals and not telling anybody their ex-boyfriend is black. Like, come on with that shit, bro. Like, y'all have to start making sure you look at men and women on average as important enough to adjust how the fuck you view the world, important enough to adjust how you talk to people, so on and so forth. On average, men are important enough to me for me to watch how the fuck I talk and to watch how I behave. Women are important enough to me on average to watch what the fuck I say and to watch how the fuck I act. To change for the better. Children in general are just so important to me. Yeah, I put you in the ground by somebody's kids. I put you in the ground by your own kids. Try me. Get to abusing your kids in front of me and see how quick I run in your mouth. So with that being said, we need to be on that type of time, and if we're going to get to a point as a society where we have trust in the black community and in the the brown community and the indigenous communities and white communities and Asian, all of that, people of color all over the place, we got to get to a point. Ah, this is my brother. I'm gonna leave this in the video. Hello. Yo, my brother brute forced his way back into his account, everybody. He got his Discord back. He unhacked the hack. Lovely, lovely. It's good to hear. Oh, he also swept his computer. Cybersecurity. We love to see it. Oh, I'm streaming, by the way. That's why I keep saying shit out loud. So they basically, my brother's Discord got hacked. They, some people figured it out, reverse engineered the little fake link and everything, tracked it, figure out what they can do. And all is well with the world. Yeah, I got you. I'll add you back to the server after I'm done streaming. I probably got like a minute or less left. You're very welcome, baby brother. I love you. I love you, six. A lot of people say I love you too, but I say I love you six. You feel me? Because six is greater than two. But with that being said, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get off here, re-add my brother to the Discord and shit. Get ready to stream something tonight. Hopefully, like I said, the biggest takeaway from this is number one, concerned ramblings. I'm not an expert. I just have some education and I've been in therapy. Leave comments, open up a dialogue, talk about what you want to talk about. Anybody who was on stream, I recommend you go watch the YouTube video later and then drop bigger comments to basically talk about the things that I talked about in the video. Because it's only so much you can say in a Twitch comment, right? On a live stream when I'm actively talking about it. Because I'll keep fucking talking and you'll miss some information and you won't be able to type everything up that quickly. But yeah, I'm gonna post this on YouTube, so drop YouTube comments, and I want y'all to give me honest like take, right? But responsibly honest. Don't just be like, yeah, you's a bitch and da 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 da, da, and this is why we say men are trash. Like that's not gonna help anybody. It's not gonna go anywhere. It's gonna be antagonistic and inflammatory. And then a bunch of advertisers on this platform who don't give a fuck if we live or die are gonna make a lot of money. Congratulations, you just helped the enemy. Let's do the right thing the first time around and make sure that when we handle these conversations, we do so with consideration and accountability and responsibility. As always, I'm Kami the Wolf Boy, aka Pretty Blicky, aka Slick Blick, aka your favorite baby father. Please love yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, how the hell are you supposed to know if somebody else really love you or not? And be yourself, because we got enough on our plate. And being somebody else takes way too much fucking effort. The hell with all of that. It's not goodbye. It's see you later. Because as always, I'm gonna see you later. So, see you later. Yeah, reach. The camera's flipped. I gotta reach. Yeah.